At 55, Bishop Herman Murray has finally broken his silence. For decades, whispers and speculation followed him everywhere he went. Millions admired him, tuned into his sermons, and streamed his music, yet behind the applause, rumors quietly circulated. Rumors about decisions, personal struggles, and events that most assumed would never see the light of day. Now, Herman is speaking, and what he reveals is reshaping the way the gospel community sees him. It all begins with an acknowledgement of the pressure that has shadowed his entire life. Herman Murray grew up in a small southern town, where faith wasn't just a part of life, it defined it. Long services, heartfelt sermons, and the stirring music of the church were woven into every aspect of his childhood. And it was here, at the tender age of 8, that Herman discovered his voice. He led songs with a clarity and depth that left adults astonished. Talent like his wasn't merely noticed, it was revered. By the time he was a teenager, Herman had become a local sensation. Crowds flocked to hear him sing. Invitations poured in from neighboring towns. But with early fame came pressures that few could understand. Criticism, jealousy, and whispers about his motives grew alongside his reputation. Even before he officially became a bishop, Herman felt the weight of expectations pressing down on him. Leadership came young, and it came with responsibilities few outside his inner circle could imagine. Mentoring young ministers, managing church finances, navigating the complex world of gospel entertainment. These were just a few of the challenges he faced. To the public, it seemed Herman Murray had it all: the accolades, the applause, and a devoted following. Behind closed doors, however, he was grappling with internal storms. The whispers and rumors had not emerged overnight. They began years earlier, quietly growing, spreading, and shaping public perception. Some were trivial, others deeply personal, and all carried the potential to disrupt his ministry. As Herman climbed higher, the scrutiny intensified. People speculated about the events he attended, choices he made, and private decisions that no one else could fully understand. And as the pressure mounted, Herman's life became increasingly private. Even professional decisions, seemingly small or innocuous, became fodder for gossip. Why he turned down certain opportunities, why he endorsed specific ministers, or why certain projects were delayed or canceled, all of it was scrutinized. Herman carried the invisible burden of public perception. Every rumor felt like a test of his faith and character, a reminder that in a public life, perception often outweighed reality. There were moments, too, that could easily be misinterpreted. Late-night studio sessions, charity events, meetings with influential figures, all of these were twisted into stories that fueled speculation. And while Herman focused on his ministry and music, the rumors spread beyond the church and into the broader gospel media. Yet, through it all, he continued to excel. Hit albums, sold-out churches, mentoring young leaders, Herman achieved remarkable success. Still, each victory came with an invisible cost, the quiet struggle with what the public believed about him. The tipping point arrived during a major gospel awards event. Backstage, an incident became the center of a swirling rumor. Social media buzzed with claims, some innocent, others pointedly accusatory. Suddenly, the whispers that Herman had tolerated for years were threatening to impact his ministry, his family, and his personal sense of integrity. He realized he could no longer remain silent. That moment marked the beginning of his first major public confession. Herman revealed that some of the people he had wronged had never forgiven him, and the lack of resolution had haunted him for decades. "I carried guilt with me for years," he admitted, his voice cracking with emotion. "It wasn't until I faced it honestly that I could move forward in faith." The honesty stunned audiences. Social media erupted, shock, praise, and a few doubts all collided in the reactions. Herman's confession showed a vulnerability rarely seen in public figures of his stature. The first confession, however, was only the start. Herman hinted at even deeper truths, secrets about personal and professional challenges he had never disclosed. He spoke in metaphors, careful allusions, suggesting there were still layers to the story he wasn't ready to fully reveal. But the acknowledgement of past mistakes set the stage for a full reckoning. And then came the confirmation of the longest-running rumor, the one that almost no one believed could be true. For decades, it had circulated quietly, whispered in church basements, gospel conventions, and online forums. Herman admitted it, explaining that youthful ambition and poor decision-making had fueled the gossip. Some choices he made unintentionally hurt staff and close associates, creating tensions that persisted for years. Yet, even in acknowledging these missteps, Herman reframed them as lessons. The rumors, he explained, had forced him to examine his life, his actions, and the areas where he most needed guidance. Herman shared that there were nights he cried himself to sleep, days he questioned whether he should continue in ministry at all. The scrutiny, the pressure, and the rumors had almost broken him. But through these trials, he discovered resilience, humility, and the power of confession. Speaking openly about the rumors, even knowing it could invite criticism, became his path to spiritual and personal freedom. There were consequences, he said. Relationships were strained. Opportunities were lost. Trust had to be rebuilt. Yet, facing the truth became the source of his greatest healing. Herman's words carried a profound weight. The story wasn't just about the rumors themselves, it was about the courage it took to confront them. His journey illuminated the cost of silence and the relief of honesty. But even after this confession, Herman hinted at more, truths far more personal and intimate. The next revelation would touch on his private life, the loneliness that accompanied his public success, and the isolation he had endured for decades. Despite being admired, respected, and constantly in the public eye, Herman admitted that he had battled deep loneliness. Ministry at a high level meant constant appearances, sermons, and public obligations. Behind the accolades, behind the music and sermons, he often felt unseen and unheard. I smiled, I preached, I led, but inside, I was struggling, he confessed. Nights of doubt and questioning were common. He wondered whether he was enough, whether his faith was enough, whether his service truly mattered. At times, he even questioned if anyone would notice if he disappeared. Yet, Herman did not let this despair define him. Instead, he used it to grow stronger, to become more introspective, and to reassess his relationship with faith, ministry, and himself. The confessions reshaped the way the gospel community viewed him. Herman was no longer simply a charismatic leader. He was human, vulnerable, and profoundly relatable. Through his honesty, he challenged the assumption that faith leaders are unshakable or perfect. By addressing both the public rumors and private struggles, he opened a window into the reality of being in a highly scrutinized position, balancing expectation and personal need. Herman's revelations also emphasized forgiveness, not only seeking it from others but granting it to himself. The years of carrying guilt and shame had nearly weighed him down entirely, but confronting the truth allowed him to reclaim agency over his life and ministry. By sharing these deeply personal moments, Herman demonstrated that confession can be transformative. It can reshape perception, mend broken relationships, and restore integrity. The ripple effects of his honesty were immediate. Social media exploded with discussion. Some praised his bravery. Others wrestled with disappointment, realizing that their idealized image of Herman had been incomplete. Yet, nearly all acknowledged one thing: the courage it took to speak publicly about private struggles and rumors was extraordinary. Herman had removed the shield of perfection and shown what it truly meant to carry the mantle of leadership. As the conversation shifted toward the more personal confessions, Herman revealed that being constantly observed had created barriers he could not break. Public appearances, expectations of flawless faith, and the pressure to deliver inspired sermons had isolated him. The strong leader image was necessary for the ministry, but it came at a personal cost. His confession about loneliness was a revelation in itself, highlighting a rarely discussed aspect of ministry: the emotional isolation that comes with constant scrutiny. Despite the challenges, Herman's journey is ultimately one of triumph. Each confession, each acknowledgement of past mistakes, has brought him closer to authenticity. He has faced rumors head-on, embraced personal accountability, and allowed the lessons from decades of speculation to transform his ministry and personal life. Herman's story is not just about scandal or gossip, it's about resilience, reflection, and the courage to confront one's past without hiding. By the time the interviews and public statements concluded, it was clear that Herman Murray's revelations had redefined his legacy. He was no longer just the bishop admired for sermons and music. He was a man who had endured intense scrutiny, personal struggles, and relentless expectations, and emerged willing to speak openly about them. His honesty became a model for others in the gospel world and beyond, showing that confronting the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is the pathway to growth. For those watching, the lesson is profound. The story of Herman Murray is a reminder that even the most admired leaders are human. Behind every successful ministry, every celebrated album, and every moving sermon, there are private battles, moments of doubt, and struggles unseen by the public. Herman's confessions shine a light on the hidden cost of leadership, the resilience required to endure rumor and speculation, and the power of vulnerability in transforming perception. As Herman himself reflected, the story doesn't end here. There are truths about my life that I have kept private for decades. Truths that, once revealed, will change how people understand me, my ministry, and my journey with God. That statement is both a promise and a reflection, a promise that more lessons lie ahead, and a reflection that truth, honesty, and faith are intertwined in ways most of us can barely imagine. By opening up about both public and private struggles, Herman Murray has changed the conversation in the gospel community. His life, once scrutinized for every whisper, is now a testament to the power of confession, accountability, and resilience. His journey reminds us that leadership is not about perfection, it's about courage, honesty, and the willingness to face the consequences of one's actions. And so, as the dust settles on decades of speculation, Herman Murray stands before the world not as an untouchable figure, but as a deeply human one. His confessions challenge assumptions, inspire reflection, and demonstrate that even in the most public lives, the personal battles can be the most transformative. In the end, Herman's story is not just about the rumors he confronted or the mistakes he admitted. It's about a journey toward authenticity, the reconciliation of public perception with private reality, and the enduring power of faith and courage in the face of scrutiny. For those who have followed his ministry for years,